Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wondered why some news articles on social media just seem to grab more attention, even if they're a bit iffy? Well, this new study dives deep into that, asking, do fake or untrustworthy news stories actually make us engage more and feel certain emotions online? That's the big question researchers set out to answer. They looked at millions of tweets and replies to see if there is a real cause, and the fact link between the trustworthiness of a news source and how we interact with that content, especially how we feel about it. They wanted to move beyond just saying, hey, this stuff gets shared a lot, and really understand why and how it affects us. Exactly, before this study, a lot of what we thought we knew was based on observing patterns, not proving direct cause. Think about it. If someone already believes a certain way, they might naturally seek out and share news that fits their views, whether it is true or not. This makes it hard to tell if the distrustful news caused the engagement, or if people who were already engaged found it. So, how did they tackle this tricky problem? They collected a massive amount of data. We're talking about nearly 10 million news tweets and over 11 million replies from Twitter, all about German news sources from late 2020 to early 2022. That is a huge chunk of online conversation. This is where it gets super clever. To figure out if there is a causal link, they used some advanced tools. They used machine learning to understand the emotions in the tweets and replies. But the real magic trick was using something called causal inference methods. Imagine trying to prove that eating ice cream makes you happy. You can't just observe people eating ice cream and being happy because lots of things make people happy. What they did was more like trying to create a what-if scenario. They used a method to match up tweets from untrustworthy sources with very similar tweets from trustworthy sources. They made sure these matched tweets were similar in other ways too, like the popularity of the person tweeting or the general topic. This way, they could isolate the effect of just the source's trustworthiness. It is like they were saying, okay, for this untrustworthy tweet, let's find an almost identical trustworthy tweet and see if anything different happens in the replies. And what did they find? It's pretty striking. Even though tweets from untrustworthy sources made up a small part of all the news shared, only about 6%, they got a lot more attention in certain ways. Untrustworthy news got a whopping 39% more retweets and about 12% more quote retweets. That means people were sharing it more and adding their own commentary to it more often. Interestingly though, they actually got fewer likes and fewer direct replies. This suggests a different kind of engagement is happening with untrustworthy content, more about spreading it than necessarily liking or directly debating it. Now, let's talk about emotions. This is where it gets really interesting. When people replied to news from untrustworthy sources, the emotions expressed were different. They found about 9% more anger, a significant 22% more disgust, and about 12% less joy. This tells us that untrustworthy content seems to stir up stronger negative feelings and less positive ones in the discussion. But they also add a really important note here. They think that the increased anger might be partly due to self-selection. What does that mean? It means that perhaps people who are already more prone to anger are the ones choosing to engage with this kind of content in the first place. They looked into this user selectivity and their findings were pretty eye-opening. They found that when people replied to untrustworthy news, there was a wider spread of users contributing replies. But at the same time, a smaller percentage of super users were responsible for a huge chunk of those replies, and these users tended to show higher baseline anger levels. This points to a dedicated group of people who are very active in sharing and engaging with this kind of content. And even more fascinating, when they looked at the same individuals and how they reacted to both trustworthy and untrustworthy news, they found something intriguing. When a person engaged with untrustworthy news compared to trustworthy news, their levels of disgust and fear increased. However, their anger levels didn't significantly change within that person. This strongly suggests that while untrustworthy content might make us feel more disgusted or fearful directly, the increase in anger we see online is more likely driven by those angry individuals choosing to engage with it. It is like the content acts as a magnet for pre-existing anger rather than universally making everyone angrier. Now, no study is perfect, and the researchers are upfront about their limitations. They point out that they're measuring what people express online, not necessarily what they truly feel inside. Also, online behavior can be influenced by all sorts of things like personal quirks or cultural backgrounds, which this study might not fully capture. Plus, they looked at German tweets during a specific time period. which might make it a bit trickier to apply these findings to every single person and every single country. But despite these limitations, the findings are incredibly important. They've given us a real glimpse into the fingerprints that misinformation leaves on social media. The study shows that untrustworthy news isn't just passively consumed. It actively drives different kinds of engagement, like more sharing and quote tweeting. And it consistently triggers stronger negative emotions like anger, disgust, and fear in the conversations that follow. It seems to be a feedback loop, where certain content attracts people who are already feeling those emotions, and in turn amplifies them within those specific communities. This is a serious call to action for social media platforms to think about their design. And that is the real takeaway, isn't it? This isn't just academic curiosity. It tells us that the way platforms are designed to maximize engagement might be inadvertently amplifying the spread and emotional impact of misinformation. Understanding these distinct fingerprints is crucial for developing better ways to detect and counter the spread of harmful content, and perhaps even design platforms that prioritize more balanced and less emotionally charged discourse. It highlights that tackling misinformation isn't just about fact-checking. It is also about understanding the powerful emotional currents that drive our online interactions. So, what do you think about these findings? Does it change how you look at the news you see online? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more explorations into the science of our mind. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.